AI never sleeps, and this week has been absolutely insane. We have a new state-of-the-art AI that can get people to talk or sing in a video, and this can do multiple people. DeepSeek releases their latest and best model yet. This AI can turn an image into an interactive video game which you can play in real time. You can even add prompts to seamlessly edit the scene all in real time. Google drops a free AI image editor which is seriously gonna wreck Photoshop. This AI can edit anything in a 3D scene with just a prompt. And then this AI can turn a 3D point cloud into a mesh, which you can edit further in any 3D software like Blender. We already have an army of humanoid robots being mass-produced and a lot more. So let's jump right in. First up, we have a new video lip sync tool. It's called InfiniteTalk by Mirage. And actually, they're the ones who also created MultiTalk, which is also a lip sync tool, which allows you to get multiple characters in a video to speak or sing. In fact, if you haven't heard of MultiTalk, definitely check out this video where I do a full review and installation tutorial. But anyways, back to InfiniteTalk, this is quite similar. But unlike other lip sync tools that can only take an input image and animate that person based on a reference audio, for InfiniteTalk, you can input a reference video, and it would alter the expressions and movements of the person in the video according to your audio. So here's one example where you can input this as the original video, and then if you input this audio,
an honest review will come from the perspective of a brand new Pixel user. But first, let's unbox it together. iPhone, but I won't tell you which phone is which, and you tell me.
So this will basically apply the audio and lip sync it to this video. So here's the final result.
An honest review will come from the perspective of a brand new Pixel user. But first, let's unbox it together. iPhone, but I won't tell you which phone is which, and
so since you're using an original video with natural movements of the person, this video-to-video feature allows you to generate way more realistic and natural results. Here are some singing examples. Now, when I upload this to YouTube, some of these clips might be muted due to copyright issues, but hopefully none of them are, so you can actually hear the underlying audio.
Moon river, wider than a mile, I'm crossing you in style someday. Old dream maker.
Again, notice how the movements are way more natural because we're using an input video, not just an image. So you're also able to control the camera movements and the transition from scene to scene. The only thing that this AI is changing are the lip movements and the expressions of the person. And then here's a talking example.
Advantage of the algorithm and the idea that you can find and get exposure to way more many people on the YouTube platform. So now this begs the question, well, why focus on audio podcasts at all? Why not just do video podcasts all the time? Well, the truth of the matter is there are people who are only willing to listen to content.
Again, notice how natural he moves. Here are some other talking examples where the original clip is sourced from a movie, but we just changed the audio.
I do not understand why everyone speaks of Xiongyu besieged at Gexia, as if this ancient battleground of the Central Plains foretells nothing but doom for us. 20 years ago, I set out from Xuzhou on my campaign, launching the second northern expedition. The Chinese begonia leaf, symbolizing the nation's territory, was unified under.
This is crazy. Like, this actually looks like he is speaking the audio. It's really hard to spot that this is AI.
Number. A lifetime means a lifetime. A year short, a month short, a day short, even a second short. It's not a lifetime.
Notice how realistic the expressions are. This is very impressive. Now, in addition to video, you can also do image to video, where you can upload just an image as the reference frame plus an audio clip. So here's an example of that.
萨君，夫子讲学，你可愿随我一同前往啊？真的。能听夫子讲学，这可是后世读书人梦寐以求的事情。谢子贡先生。
even with just an image, it's able to animate their entire body. And even the gestures and everything just looks very natural.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the show that cuts through the noise, bringing you the insights that matter in tech.
Great to be here.
Today we're plunging into artificial intelligence, specifically this huge journey AI is on.
Right, from the large language models, the LLMs everyone's talking about.
Exactly. All the way to what many call the ultimate goal, artificial general intelligence, or AGI.
Again, the lip sync is just really damn good. You can see how you can easily apply this AI to animate podcasts or interviews.
InfiniteTalk revolutionizes digital human creation by enabling unlimited length-talking video generation, FAE. No more time constraints. Here's how it works. First, upload just one image plus an audio clip, and we generate perfectly lip-synced videos of any duration.
Now, really quickly, here's how it works. So it mainly uses this new technique called long sequence sparse frame video dubbing, which basically keeps a few reference frames from the original video. And these are like snapshots that it can reference to capture a person's look or gestures or camera angle. And then afterwards, the AI will proceed to fill in the blanks, or basically interpolate between these frames, while lip syncing it to your reference audio clip. Now, if you scroll up to the top of the page, the nice thing is they've released the code already. So if you click on this GitHub repo and you scroll down a bit, here are all the instructions on how you can download and run this locally on your computer. Notice that this does use WAN 2.1 as the base model, plus it's also compatible with other acceleration steps like Fusion-ix or LightX2V, so you should be able to run this on most consumer-grade GPUs. And it looks like there's already support for Comfy UI. Anyways, the code plus the technical report are all up here, so I'll link to this main project page in the description below for you to read further. Next up, Alibaba releases this new multimodal model called RynnEC. Now, this is basically a language model which can also understand and interact with the world through videos and images. So in theory, you would plug this AI model into a robot and it can understand and answer questions about objects or actions in the video. It can also perform tasks like object segmentation and spatial understanding. So here are some examples of the cool things that it can do. You can ask it about the surface of this particular object, and it's able to identify that it's smooth and flat with a light wood finish. It's also able to answer the function of this object, which is to place items. And then you can also get it to segment objects. So for example, if you ask it, which object should I use to drink water, it's able to identify and segment that appropriate object. Now, those two examples are pretty basic. I mean, most vision language models can already do this. But here are some more impressive things that this can do. It can also kind of predict the distance between different objects. So for example, if you have these two objects in a video, and you ask it what's the distance between object 0 and object 1, it's somehow able to answer that it's 1.23 meters. Pretty impressive. Here's something else. It also seems to have really good spatial understanding of things in a video. If you get it to identify these two objects in the video, notice that they only appear for like a split second in the video. And the video is quite shaky. It's not a good video, but if you ask it which one is taller, it's able to answer that correctly. And then which one is above, it's also able to answer this correctly. So it seems to have very good spatial understanding. Here's another crazy thing it can do. It can also predict the distance between the camera and any object in the video. So for example, if you ask it what's the distance between you and this object, it's somehow able to predict that it's 1.63 meters. Now similarly, because it's so good at spatial understanding, you can also ask it direction questions like this. Is this object on your right rear or right front? And it's able to know that this object is at the front. And then if you make a 60-degree right turn, how will this object be oriented with respect to you? And it's able to forecast that this is going to then be at the 1 o'clock direction. Now, if you compare this RynnEC with other multimodal and vision models, notice that this new one just outperforms most of them across most of these benchmarks regarding object cognition and spatial cognition. It's especially impressive in, the spatial understanding of everything in the scene, including the object height, size, position, etc. Anyways, the nice thing is, since this is from Alibaba, they've actually open sourced everything already. So down here, it contains all the instructions on how to download this and run it locally on your computer. Plus, it looks like they've also given you the code on how you can train this further using your own data. Notice that it's using Qwen 2.5 as the base model, and the resulting models only have like 2 billion or 7 billion parameters, so you should be able to run this on most consumer-grade GPUs. This is of course important because the main use case for this is to embed these into robots, so these models have to be small enough to fit into these edge devices. Finally, the awesome thing is this is under the Apache 2 license, which has very minimal restrictions, so you can do pretty much whatever you want with it, including commercial usage. Anyways, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Next up, this AI is extremely powerful, and this allows you to edit things in a 3D scene using just a prompt. So for example, you can prompt it to add autumn leaves to the scene, and here's what you get. Or you can also prompt it to add this frost effect, and here's what you get. Or you can also change the road to a river, and here's your result. Or you can turn the scene into a Van Gogh style painting like this. Or you can also micro-edit certain things in a scene. For example, you can turn the slippers white. Or you can get this man to wear a black tuxedo like this. Or you can change this towel into a chalkboard painting. Or turn this into Western comic style. Now, how this works under the hood is you would have your 3D scene and input a prompt on how you want to edit the scene. And it would use Flux Context, which is one of the best AI image editors, to actually edit one or a few frames from the scene. And after generating those reference frames, it's able to kind of fill in the blanks and generate the rest of the 3D scene with the edit. Now, if you compare this with other 3D scene editors like DGE or EditSplat, you can see that this new one, Tinker, just performs a lot better in terms of actually changing the scene according to your prompt. You can see that this one is the most accurate and most consistent. Anyways, if you scroll up to the top of the page, they have released a GitHub repo, and over here it does say that they do plan to release the data and the source code and the pipeline, which is fantastic. Anyways, for now, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. In other news, we have a new real-time video game generator. And this is the best quality and most interactive one I've seen yet. This is called Mirage 2, and around a month ago I already featured Mirage 1 when they just released it. But Mirage 2 is even better. This is truly generative play, where you can upload an image and instantly generate a playable environment of various styles. So you can generate like a cyberpunk city or a medieval town or whatever you want. And you can also chat with the AI to edit the scene further or introduce new elements. So for example, you can input this image and it would generate an entire playable 3D world which you can walk around and interact with. So for example, you can press the WASD or arrow keys to move around. Plus, there are also buttons for you to run or jump or attack or aim. And notice how good the quality is. The crazy thing is that this entire world is generated in real time as you walk around. Previously it took such a long time to generate just a few seconds of video, but now we already have this interactive video generator which can respond to your key presses. Or here's another example. You can just upload a simple drawing like this and create a 3D world from that where you can walk around. Or here's another example where you can upload, this kid's drawing and transform this into a 3D world where the kid can run around. How cool is that? And notice that this doesn't have to be first person. You can also generate a third person scene where you're viewing the character from behind. Or here's another example where we upload this classic Starry Night painting and we can transform this into a 3D world like this. How cool is that? And it doesn't just have to be a character walking. Here's an example of someone riding a horse. And notice that you can prompt it further from rural wilderness to a modern metropolis, which you can see right here. And then let me fast forward the video, and then you can prompt it into a cyberpunk dystopia like this. Very cool. And then if I fast forward this again, notice with just a prompt, you can also turn this into an endless desert. And then you can prompt it further again and change this into an alien planet. And notice that the transition is very seamless. And then afterwards, you can also turn this into a snowy medieval town, and here is what you get. And then finally, let's also turn this into a tropical island. Very nice. It's really impressive how it's able to just seamlessly transition into this new scene based on whatever you prompted, while keeping everything interactive. Or here's another example where we can start off with this cyberpunk city scene, and then you can turn this into a rainforest with a moss-covered stone staircase, and here is what you get. Very cool. And then afterwards you can prompt it further and change the scene into a mountaintop castle in autumn. And here is what you get. So it's able to generate a variety of different environments and scenes based on whatever you prompt it with. This is such a flexible tool. Now over here, they also compare it to Google DeepMind's Genie 3, which I featured a few weeks ago. Now I would say that Genie 3 is definitely higher quality, and it does seem to understand physics a bit better, but for Mirage 2, they claim that it's more interactive, so there are definitely more actions the user can do, such as run, jump, and attack. Plus, you can keep generating the scene in real time for over 10 minutes. The latency is also really short, so it's essentially real time. And here's the crazy thing. They claim that you just need a single consumer-grade GPU to run this. Now, they haven't released any additional specs yet, nor have they released the model for you to actually download locally, but for now you can try this out online. So simply click on this link over here, and you can either upload your own scene or choose from any of these initial images. So I'm gonna choose this one and then press start. And indeed, I can press the WASD keys or the arrow keys to change the perspective. Some of the time it's not actually following my instructions, so it's not as good as the videos that they demoed. Here's another example of some winter landscape, and notice that I can also hold down the shift key to make this character run, and it seems like if I press space, I can also make the character jump. Very cool. Here's another example of a cyberpunk city, and on the right here, I can change the scene into a medieval village. So let's press send, and then let's move around. And indeed, it changes the scene into a medieval village. Very cool. So, this does work, but sometimes there are some latency issues, so you might need to wait a few seconds before it actually responds to your key presses. Plus, after a few minutes, at least for me, it automatically disconnects my game. So you can't play this for like a continuous 10 minutes. It's probably because it's going to overwhelm their servers. But nevertheless, this is still very impressive. This is the best quality real-time interactive world generator, which you can actually demo for free right now. Now, it doesn't seem like they've released the code or model for this, nor is there any indication that they will open source this. But for now, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main announcement page in the description below. Definitely try out the demo for Mirage 2. I think you'll be quite impressed by this. Speaking of AI tools, you've got to check out ZAI, the sponsor of this video. They've got some state-of-the-art models like GLM 4.5, which has now become my personal favorite open source model to use. Best of all, you can use it completely for free on their online platform. They have a super powerful AI slides feature. For example, let's make a beautiful presentation on the wildlife of Sri Lanka. And here is what we get. Look how beautiful everything is. It's also insanely good at coding. So here's a space shooter game which I created in just one prompt. As you can see, the game is fully playable and the visuals look great. It also has web search, so you can turn this on to fetch the latest information from the internet. For example, let's get it to create a financial report on Nvidia, and here is our result. Everything is accurate and everything looks beautiful. They even have this full stack feature which allows you to create complete apps with multiple pages. So for example, let's get it to design a futuristic blog and forum, and it should include a landing page, topic hub, blog posts, etc., etc. Let's turn this full stack option on, and here's what we get. It includes this landing page, and then also this topics page, and then I can click on blog, plus here we also have a forum, etc., etc. They've also recently released this new vision model which can analyze images, so you can use it to guess the location of a photo. For example, I'm going to upload this photo and then ask where is it, and it correctly identified that this is English Bay. This is completely free to use, and this is currently my favorite open source AI model. Try it today via the link in the description below. Next up, Google has introduced a super powerful feature in Google Photos, which lets users edit images using AI. It's ridiculously easy to use. All you need to do is prompt how you want to edit the photo using text. For example, you can remove glare, brighten the photo, even add clouds to the sky or remove things. You can do pretty much whatever you want. Or you can take an old photo and restore it or colorize it like this. Or you can also remove items from the photo, or swap clothes, swap the background, change the brightness, contrast, saturation. I mean, this is gonna totally wreck Photoshop. There's no need for any manual selection or masking or adjusting any sliders. I suspect this is using their latest image editor model called Nano-banana, which is currently just a stealth model, so we don't know the full details of Nano-banana yet. In fact, I'll talk more about Nano-banana in a second, but going back here, it seems like this image editing feature is first coming to the latest Google Pixel 10 in the US, and then they're also going to slowly roll out to other Android and iOS devices in the coming weeks. Anyways, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main announcement page in the description below. In other news, DeepSeek has released their latest model, DeepSeek V3.1, and this has both a thinking mode, which processes for a bit longer but can handle more complex reasoning tasks, and then a non-thinking mode, which answers faster for simpler tasks. Now this runs way faster than DeepSeek R1, plus it has stronger agentic skills. Now if you compare this with version 3 or DeepSeek R1, you can see that this latest version, 3.1, performs a lot better in terms of these coding benchmarks. And notice that the improvement is pretty huge. Like for some of these, it's over a 20% jump compared to the previous version. And then same with all these benchmarks, you can see version 3.1 just performs a lot better. The nice thing is you can try it for free right now on DeepSeek.com. So this is a chat interface very similar to OpenAI's ChatGPT. Now the thing is, they claim that this is now using version 3.1 instead of DeepSeek R1. However, there's no way to explicitly tell if this is true. So for this video, to show you some demos, just to make sure I'm actually using version 3.1, I'm going to use another free platform called OpenRouter where you can test different AI models. And then over here, I'm going to add model and then select DeepSeek 3.1. And then let's test a few examples. For the first prompt, I'm going to get it to create a space shooter game where players pilot a ship through asteroid fields, dodging debris and firing lasers at alien invaders. And then yes, I'm going to get it to code an app, and then let's click generate. All right, here is what we get. So it looks like I can use my arrow keys to move and the spacebar to fire lasers. Let's click start. And indeed, I can move around. We do have these alien invaders, plus we have these asteroids, and I need to dodge them, and everything works right out of the box. I can move around, I can shoot lasers, plus the asteroids and the alien invaders do explode if I shoot them. Very nice. Now let me try to die here. So I'm going to get hit by an asteroid. And indeed, after I get hit 3 times, then my life count is 0 and it's game over. Everything just works. All right, next up, I'm going to get it to generate a crypto portfolio dashboard showing price fluctuations, risk assessments, and trade simulators. Let's press generate. All right, here is what we get. Indeed, we have an imaginary crypto portfolio dashboard. I can select from all these different coins. And then let's try this trade simulator. I'm going to buy 2 Bitcoin at 10,000 and then press buy. And I think it updated my holdings over here. Let me try this again. So I'm going to buy like 3 Bitcoin now at 80,000. Yeah, you can see that it's updating my holdings over here. So this trade simulator seems to work as well. I mean, this dashboard is very basic, but it works. All right, next, here's a prompt that requires some deeper research and thinking. So for a newborn with congenital heart defects, research surgical options and long-term prognoses. Suggest monitoring steps, etc., compile into a comprehensive report. Let's press generate. All right, and here is what we get. Here's an introduction and overview. Here is an anatomical diagram. Now, this can't generate an image, so it tried its best to create a diagram using text like this. And then here's another diagram, which it tried to illustrate like this. And then here's a table on surgical and interventional options. And then here is long-term prognoses and survival rates. So here's a nice table outlining everything. Long-term considerations, essential monitoring steps, and then here's some genetic counseling recommendation and a conclusion. So it's not bad. It's really hard to objectively compare, these responses with other AI models. I mean, all of them can answer these questions pretty well, but each of them have a slightly different vibe. So it kind of depends on which one you personally prefer. All right, next, I'm going to get it to make a visual simulation of a beehive construction showing hexagonal cells forming, worker bee paths, and honey storage. Include sliders for the following, etc. Let's press generate. All right, here's what we get, and it doesn't look like the bees are actually, foraging and forming more cells or filling up the cells with honey. So the bees are kind of slowly floating in this direction, but it's far from what I want. Now, if I increase the colony size, it does increase the number of bees. If I increase or decrease the resource availability, I don't think that does anything because it doesn't seem like they're actually gathering resources. So this is a fail. Note that GPT-5, which is the leading model out there right now, was able to get this prompt correct. So those were some quick tests with DeepSeek version 3.1. Next, let's look at some independent leaderboards. So here's one by Artificial Analysis, and you can see that DeepSeek version 3.1, at least the thinking mode, ranks all the way up here. So in terms of open source models, it's slightly behind OpenAI's GPT-OSS and Qwen 3. So unfortunately, DeepSeek version 3.1 is not the best open source model right now. Now, if you look at pricing, this is really cheap. So it's like 2.6 times cheaper than Qwen 3. Here's another leaderboard called LiveBench by Abacus AI, and as you can see, DeepSeek version 3.1, the thinking mode, is all the way down here, slightly below Qwen 3. So at least in terms of this leaderboard, DeepSeek version 3 is the second best open source model you can use right now. It's just like 1/100th of a point lower than Qwen 3. And then interestingly, OpenAI's OSS is actually all the way down here. So there's quite a huge discrepancy between this leaderboard and this one, which ranks OSS over here. And that's why it's important to look at multiple leaderboards so you can get a well-rounded sense of how exactly an AI model performs. So anyways, those were just some quick tests using DeepSeek version 3.1. Again, you can use it for free right now using their chat interface. Plus, as before, they've released all the models already. So if you go on Hugging Face, you can actually download the entire DeepSeek version 3 over here. Anyways, all the links are up here, so I'll link to this main announcement page in the description below. Next up, this AI is super useful. It's called Mesh Coder, and this can basically take a point cloud and turn it into an editable 3D mesh like this. Now, specifically, it outputs this 3D model in the form of code that can be used in 3D editing software like Blender. So for example, here we have the sofa, and here's the code for each section of the sofa, which you can edit further in any 3D modeling software. So, you can easily change the size and shape and dimensions of any part of the sofa. Or here's another example of this chair. And again, this is basically just code, and you can edit each component of this chair with this code. And keep in mind, this is way better and more preferred than just a 3D point cloud like this, which you can't really edit or manipulate. Here's another example of this toilet, and again, everything is just coded really nicely into this 3D mesh with separate sections, which you can edit further. Now, again, the benefit of this is that because this is just code, you can easily edit the 3D models further. So for example, you can turn this top part from a cube to a cylinder and you would get something like this. Or you can also change the depth of this sink to something like this. Or you can also increase the resolution, or basically the number of faces in the mesh. So the resolution here is 3, but you can increase it to 24 and you can see that it's a lot smoother. Here's another example. And also with this code, you can plug it through an LLM and understand the structure of the object. So for example, you can ask what's the structure of this object and get something like this. Or you can ask how many legs does this sofa have, and here is your answer. So, this generated result is just way easier to process and analyze compared with just a 3D point cloud like this. The nice thing is, if you scroll up to the top of the page, they have released this GitHub repo, and it says here that they plan to release the code by November. So stay tuned for that. For now, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Also this week, we have a new demo by the Boston Dynamics Atlas. This is their latest humanoid robot. Now here you can see that it's acting completely autonomously. This is not teleoperated by someone behind the scenes. And notice its goal is to basically pick up the objects in this container and place it in the bigger container. All the while, this annoying human is like closing the lid and trying to make it harder for the robot to actually pick up the stuff. But as you can see, it's able to autonomously open the lid again and grab the items and place it in the larger bin. And then this annoying human tries to drag the box away. Afterwards, you can see that it autonomously can detect that the box is now further away, and then it first pulls the box closer to itself and then it resumes handling the objects. So you can see how this robot can basically do a ton of different tasks in different environments or conditions or scenarios, all autonomously, even if it encounters obstacles. Also, another thing to note is that now this robot has these claw-like hands, whereas in previous demos, the Atlas did not really have a hand. Although previously you can see that it can do push-ups and cartwheels like this. So it seems like this hand component is interchangeable. Anyways, with these abilities, you can see how the Atlas can be deployed to automate a ton of tasks in factories, manufacturing, and logistics. In other robotics news, we have this new video showing an army of humanoid robots mass-produced in China. So this is the Agibot A2, developed by AGI Robotics, based in Shanghai. Now, I've already featured Agibot before, but it looks like this year they've already mass-produced around 1,000 of these robots, which you can see here, and they plan to ramp up production to 5,000 units by the end of this year. And they're actively deploying these robots in commercial service environments, for example, to provide customer guidance, or even do marketing presentations, and also, of course, to automate tasks in factories and logistics. So just a few stats about AGI A2. So this is 175 centimeters tall, it weighs 55 kilograms, and it has over 40 active degrees of freedom, making it super flexible and dexterous. It also has multiple sensors, such as a 360-degree LiDAR, plus multiple cameras and microphones, and force and torque sensors, and this enables precise operations and also obstacle detection. This can operate for around 2 hours on a full charge, plus it can carry up to 15 kilograms. So this can do some pretty heavy-duty lifting for commercial or industrial needs. And like most humanoid robots, its brain is basically a local multimodal model which allows it to process text, audio, and visual inputs for real-time interactivity. And you can see, like, right now it's deployed in various scenarios like shopping malls or showrooms, auto dealerships, as well as industrial applications. In other news, if you've been following my channel, last week the World Humanoid Robot Games kicked off in Beijing, and it's basically an Olympics for humanoid robots. They competed in a ton of events like boxing and running. Well, the event was still ongoing when I recorded last week's video, so here are some more updates from the Humanoid Games. Apparently they also had a solo dance contest, and here is the winning performance that got the gold medal. So this is from the Unitree G1, and they basically trained it to perform this really long dance routine, which is around 2.5 minutes long. And the cute thing is it's actually wearing this red t-shirt with the text AGI. It's a pretty complex dance routine, as you can see here. I mean, it requires some pretty complex coordination, but it's able to maintain balance the entire time. Also this week, we have a new state-of-the-art image editor called Qwen Image Edit. This allows you to edit images just with a prompt, so you don't need to do any manual selection or masking or brushing. It can do so many impressive things like changing the brightness, contrast, white balance, or restoring photos, or changing the text to something else, or micro-editing certain features and objects of the image. And if you look at this independent leaderboard called Artificial Analysis, and if you rank all the image editing models, you can see that Qwen Image Edit is now the best open source image editor you can use right now. Heck, it even beats some closed source proprietary models like Flux Context Max and Flux Context Pro. Notice that these are paid and closed source. The open source version is all the way down here. Now, I already did a full installation tutorial and review of Qwen Image Edit this week, so see this video if you want to learn more. However, in addition to Qwen Image Edit, we also have this stealth model called Nano-banana. Now, this is by far the best AI image editor out there. I mean, it's not even close. Now, rumor has it that this belongs to Google, and actually, I've been waiting for them to officially release it, but they haven't done so yet. I'll definitely make a full review video on it once this has been officially released, but as of now, it's just under the stealth name Nano-banana, and at least at the time of this recording, you can only access it on this platform called LM Arena. This is basically a place where users can blind test different AI models side by side. So I'll link to this page in the description below, and here's where you would upload an image to edit. So for example, I'm going to upload this damaged old photo, and I'm going to write restore and colorize this photo. Let's press generate. Now here's the painful part about using this LM Arena. It randomly chooses two image editors to process your prompt, and then it won't reveal which is which until you choose a winner. So for this example, I'm going to choose left is better, and then you can see that the one I chose is Nano-banana. Now, some of the time, both these models might not include Nano-banana, so that's the annoying thing about this is you kind of have to keep repeating this again and again and hope that at least one of these is using Nano-banana. Anyways, I just wanted to give Nano-banana a mention because this is by far the best image editor you can kind of use right now. But like I said, I'll wait until this is actually officially released before I do a full review video on it, so stay tuned for that. For now, I'll link to this LM Arena page, which at the time of this recording is the only place where you can use Nano-banana. Next up, this AI is also state-of-the-art. So it's called GeoSam2, and this is a really accurate way to identify and segment different parts of a 3D object. So this just takes in a 3D mesh like this, and this can also accept simple prompts, so you can click on the 3D model or draw boxes on the 3D model to guide the segmentation. And in the end, you'll get a result like this. So here are some examples. Depending on what you select or what you click on, you can segment the character like this or like this. So here, notice that the boots are all just one object, whereas here even the feet are separated. Or here, you can also choose to merge both the hand and this part of the arm together, whereas over here, these parts are separate. Or over here, you can also choose to merge all the parts of the head together. So, based on where you click or what you prompt it with, you can choose how you want to segment a 3D model. Here are some other examples where we can choose to segment this 3D model differently. And here's the advantage of allowing you to click on the model to decide which parts to segment or merge together. For example, if you only want to separate the fruits with the rest of the bowl, then you're able to do it with this new GeoSam2, which is the second last column. And notice that the ground truth, in other words, the actual segmentation or the answer, is the farmost column. Notice that for these other tools like Find3D or SamPart3D, SamMesh, etc., they were unable to accurately segment the fruits from the rest of the bowl. Like some of them would segment each fruit as a separate object, which is not ideal. Or here's another example where, as you can see, this new AI is able to accurately segment the well based on meaningful parts, which you can select. And this is very close to the ground truth. In contrast, the rest of these segmentation models are kind of all over the place. Some of them separate each brick and each piece of wood as a separate object. Some of them randomly segment different rows of bricks. It's just not ideal. And then here are some other examples for your reference. Notice that so far only GeoSam2 is able to segment this object correctly, whereas the other segmentation models are kind of all over the place and they're not as customizable. Anyways, there are a ton of examples and comparisons on this page, so in the interest of time, I'm not going to go over all of them, but really quickly, here's how it works. So it basically takes your 3D model, and then using AI, it generates 12 different views of the 3D object. So you get different views like this. And then it uses this segmentation tool called SAM2 to basically process the images and separate individual parts. Now, the reason for generating 12 views of this character is to get a better understanding of the object and each part at different views. And this allows it to segment everything more accurately. Now, if you scroll up to the top of the page, they have released this GitHub button, but if you click on it, it doesn't really take you anywhere. So as of now, it doesn't seem like any code or models are released yet, but hopefully they will open source this. I think this is one of the best 3D segmentation tools you can use right now. And as you can see from the examples, it's very flexible and customizable. Anyways, for now, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. And that sums up all the highlights in AI this week. Let me know in the comments what you think of all of this. Which piece of news was your favorite, and which tool are you most looking forward to trying out? As always, I will be on the lookout for the top AI news and tools to share with you. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. Also, there's just so much happening in the world of AI every week. I can't possibly cover everything on my YouTube channel. So to really stay up to date with all that's going on in AI, be sure to subscribe to my free weekly newsletter. The link to that will be in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.